Hope you can see my screen. I'll hit start as soon as everybody joins.
Yeah. Let's just give them 2 more minutes. So we
Okay.
start at 32. Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, how are you doing, Rupesh?
Good, good. It's almost 7:30 a.m. About to go to the office, but yes, I'll
That's
just
cool.
delay for an hour.
It,
So we
it's
can understand.
7:30 there. You're
7 p.m.
starting
Yeah.
office. I'm finishing office. It's 4:30 here. So I'm
Yeah.
done. This is the last activity of the day, and then I'm
Okay.
done.
Good,
It's
good.
been so long. Yeah. How have you been?
Yeah, almost after a decade, right? We are
I know. Yeah.
seeing each other here. So good to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
Lot
At
of
least this
change.
thing became like a connect, so we could
Yeah,
actually talk about. Yeah.
definitely.
Cool. Okay, I guess we should get started because people keep joining and leaving in between. So depending on how things are, yeah, this is almost finishing office time right now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, uh, okay then. My name is Mohit. I'm just going to introduce myself and then I'll pass it to you, Rupesh. Yeah,
Yeah,
my name is
definitely.
Mohit. I am the chief consultant at Atea Technologies, Atea Us in Oslo,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm I deal with cybersecurity, cloud, and a lot of other stuff there, and that's why I started this community to make sure I could have I could meet like-minded people, and like-minded people we are out there with thinking about and making this as a practice so that we can
Right.
connect to more people and discover things here. And Rupesh here is my old colleague, in fact, my senior. Yeah, and I've known him for a very long time. I think from the start of my career, very talented and very well-spoken person. Yeah. So Rupesh, I pass it to you. Please carry on.
Cool. Thanks for the quick introduction, Mohit. Really appreciate your time for being here and to know more about me and the OT technology. So I'm glad to be here. So I don't have any specific introduction slide here with me, but my name is Rupesh Shurki. I am with the IT industry for almost 15 years now, and with masters and bachelors in IT. I'm a CISSP in security. My passion is about the security. And in last 10 years or so, I am working in the operational technology field. I am currently based in Bakersfield, California, which is north of Los Angeles. And I'm working for one of the major oil and gas manufacturing company here, which is Chevron, and which gives me a really good learning curve and to explore this field, which was completely unaware for me till I joined the Chevron. So I'm glad to be here, and I would like to share my views, my learnings. I know this field is very huge, but I'll try to summarize whatever I know, and definitely will touch base with you guys later if you have any questions.
Absolutely.
So,
That's one of the things I also wanted to say. This is a community. We're trying to build a community. I'm going to share some details where we could connect later on. And
sure.
Rupesh is trying to talk about something very specific. Yeah. So
Right. Sure.
getting back to you, Rupesh, please.
Cool, thank you. So let me go ahead to the agenda here quickly. So we'll begin with the introduction of the OT. I know this field is basically kind of a machine and hardware and all related, so I don't have any live demo to present, by the way. So I will definitely share one video of the demo, but just wanted to give you an idea about how the presentation will be. So to begin with the introduction of the operational technology, what are the difference we know about the IT, but what is exactly IT and OT? So then we'll go with the importance of OT security and their consequences, basically. OT security landscape. If you would like to build a strategy for the OT security, what are the things we can consider? Then what are the security related standards basically we have in the industry as of now? Then there are the IT related certifications, as there are many certifications in the market. I would like to highlight few which are the pretty good if anybody is interested into getting one. And there is a quick short demo video I'll be presenting, and then there's a Q&A. So let's dive into the introduction. Why I have the specific picture of the train here, or the here is I'll definitely explain you later, but we'll go with the operational technology. So what exactly the operational technology all about? So what the Wikipedia or the basically the definition says is OT operational technology is basically hardware and software that detects or causes a change through the direct monitoring and or control of physical devices such as valves, pumps, temperature sensors, gas sensors, etc. within industrial process. So what it does is basically, we all know about the different applications we are working on, SAP, ERP, all these are IT applications which are basically doing some data analysis, modifying something or creating something in the system in the virtual way. But in the operational technologies, basically, it's a connection, or it's a combination of hardware which we have, which is specifically we call it as, I'll give you the examples here. So which basically includes the programmable logic controllers, PLC, which are the small embedded system kind of a devices which has a logic or the program created in it, which actually goes into the field, which is modifying the processes, which is sensing some data using the sensors, and which is modifying some controls using the actuators. So OT is basically a combination of all this, which is a programmable logic controllers, supervisory control data acquisition unit, data acquisition systems, which is basically kind of a combination of all, which is call it as, it's as a SCADA which we implement. And then there is a distributed control system. DCS is basically a unit which has everything embedded in it. It cannot be customized. It's suppose there's a Siemens or the Rockwell or any other company, they sell as a bundle altogether. So if you want to maintain or manage a specific manufacturing unit of one of your a Coke manufacturing plant, it's located on the specific location. It's not connected anywhere else to the other plants. DCS is the another unit we can use. Then remote terminal unit, if there is some connectivity needs to be there, so the RTU is used. I know these are all different terminologies which are completely new to me as well, and I know I'm not sure how many of you know about this OT technology altogether, but these are the few terms I would like to highlight. But there are multiple what you call it as a technologies or systems. Another one is human machine interface, we call it as, which is how the humans are, or the people who are monitoring the project or monitoring the operations, which are actually controlling the walls or the systems. So before going to the OT security, I would like to just give some heads up about what is exactly the operational technology. The operational technologies also call it as industrial control systems. It's previously well known as industrial control systems, but in recent times it got well known, or the renamed it as operational technology, because it's actually doing some operation in the field. And I will definitely explain what are the different industries we are talking about here. But this is basically used in different manufacturing plants or operation plants where something needs to be manufactured, something needs to be controlled, some process needs to be carried out in the industry with the use of network connectivity, with the use of different applications, with these different units I have mentioned about, the PLCs, SCADA, DCS, and all about. So before going ahead, any question here, or should I just keep the questions at the end? Wait.
I have a question, Rupesh.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is about actual hardware cybersecurity, isn't it?
It's basically a combination, because if you see the operational technology, it's not just hardware, because there is a software connected to it. With the
Okay.
term I've used about the human machine interface, those are the systems, we call it as, which has the specific applications. And those applications are actually controlling the hardware, the actuators, the sensors. The sensors could be water temperature, the flow level could be the pressure of the specific container unit, or if there is
Okay.
oil manufacturing where it's oil filling the tank. So this all is controlled with the application. So it is a combination of hardware and software. It's called of earlier been known as embedded system, if you know about. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
also similar thing. Yeah.
So this is about securing the critical infrastructure that
Yes.
deals with this, both the
Yes.
hardware and the
Yes.
software part of it.
Yes. Yes. So that's
Okay.
why if I, yeah, sorry.
No, carry on. That was it. Thanks.
Right. So that's why it is well known in the critical infrastructure field. In my name, it is mentioned as securing critical infrastructure, basically. So let's go to the next slide where I'll explain about the different industries. I know these are the few, but there are many industries in which we are using the OT, which we are not aware at all. So energy is the first one, which we basically known as, I mean, the electrical grid, smart grid, we call it as well. All the electricity for the specific country, specific state, cities being manufactured, water treatment, all the water comes to your home is actually flown, it is carried out the operation through these operational technologies, SCADA or the DCS units. Then oil and gas, which I am working on at the moment, all the production which is done using these OT. Then there is OE manufacturing, there is industrial cyber consulting auditing as well, which is done. Then the pulp, paper, maritime, automotive, food, beverages. If you know about the maritime, about the recent experience or recent incident done was happened in the US regarding one of the ship. It's not related to cyber attack as such, because there is no specific inputs received actually from the analysis, but the ship which is actually running, which is carrying all these barrels of oils or goods, are actually also running on the SCADA or the operational technology. If you consider about any space technologies, all these space shuttles, all these space units which are NASA or any other company is sending to the space, those are actually running on the operational technologies. If you see anywhere which is in the mass production being carried out, it is OT or the SCADA is present there. So if you consider about all the billions of bottles of Coke or cold drinks or the our medicines or anything which is carried out, right? The SCADA is present there. So these are the few industries in which I have mentioned here, but that's why it is well known as a critical infrastructure. As per the CISA, and specifically in the US, it is also known as a critical infrastructure. So there is a specific guidelines, specific standards put forth by almost each and every country in the globe. And I know about the US at the moment because there are so many guidelines or the restrictions or the standards which is posed, which is helping to run the critical infrastructure, which is massive in terms of any security breach or any incident. Let's go to the next slide. Mohit, you can, or anybody can stop me if you have any questions. I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah, that's fine because this critical infrastructure is actually necessary. Norway is putting a lot of efforts on this because the ongoing war. Yeah.
Right.
So there's an
Right.
inherent fear that our critical infrastructure for electricity and for water supplies might be impacted. Right. So this, I can totally relate to this because I work with some of the customers who do this.
Right. Right. Got it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And unless we dive into the specific, we are not sure exactly how it is being carried out. But at the moment, I'm just giving some basic details, but there are so much to explain and more and explain and mention here. But we are basically, as my experience or my background is purely from IT. And this has basically come from the instrumentation or other engineering fields, which they know about from the beginning about how the PLC program needs to be developed. There are the different tools they're using to create those programs, and they actually monitor the infrastructure. But since I'm using now, it started learning more, and it's always fascinating to know and learn about this technology on day-to-day basis. So this, I'm now going to explain a little bit about what is IT and what is OT, because we all know about the IT, all the applications, and this is specifically the snapshot of the picture here explains about what the IT people is doing and what the OT technician is actually doing, and there is a interrelations between them, because the if you see about the OT is of no use if there is no IT use in it. If you say, like, because there is some application needs to be developed, some monitoring tool needs to be used, some SIM tool needs to be used to manage the infrastructure. So there is some convergence, some interaction between the IT and OT, but there is a difference in the way in which it is basically used compared to the our normal IT applications, as I mentioned about the SAP or the ERP or any other tool we are using. And there is a difference between the operational technology applications or the hardware we interact with. So I just explain here about the few basic differences in the IT versus OT. So if you see about the IT, it's highly connected to the internet, because I don't know if there's any application which not connected, because if you see a cloud or anything, mostly interconnected or mostly connected to the internet. But if you see in the OT, It's never been designed or developed to connect to the internet, because it was in use or running for almost decades now. And there are the systems, legacy systems basically, which are running from decades, so which are not connected. And there is specifically reason behind it, because it's not meant to be connected. It is actually meant to run the smooth operation, to produce something, to process something, to build something, and there was no need to connect to the other outside world. In terms of the IT, the Gen X technologies use, if you consider about the AI, if you consider about the cloud, if you consider about any latest technologies, IT is basically using those, or those are dependent on. But if you see about the OT, there are the systems which are legacy. I mean, it is running on pretty old. That's why it was really difficult for any organization to move even a single OS or infrastructure, because if it was Windows 2008, 2012, or Windows 7, it was a challenging, because the applications they're using, it should be matched with the hardware in use, like the all the sensors or actuators or the PLCs. Those should interact, those should work properly. So it takes time, and because the operation is pretty critical, it's really challenging to get away from the legacy systems to move away to the latest one. But even today's world, now companies or the industries, OT industry or the manufacturing industry, they started going with the cloud, starting with the private cloud, started going with using some kind of, I know the robotics were already used, but started interacting more. But obviously there are challenges, there are the issues. Obviously I'll cover the challenges in the next slide. But yes, so the primary purpose of the IT is to manage and process the data. It's based on the basically to have something in the form of a data or the virtually. It's kind of any application which is generating something, processing some data. But if you see in the OT environment, it is primarily focused on maintaining functionality, and how the production can be carried out. And that's the main goal. And if you see IT is more focused on availability, we should have the banking application should be running 24 by 7, no downtime, pretty less maintenance task. But if you see in the OT, it's more focused on safety and reliability, because in OT, if there is a slight issue in terms of few seconds or minutes about it's displaying the data or updating the value on the application, can cause a major havoc. Because in terms of if I'm working on one of the operation screen, if I'm working on one of the production screen at the moment, which is filling the oil level in the operational plant, if there is a slight delay, if the slight interruption, right, it could create some issues. It could overflow the same. If you overflow the, if it could explode the specific unit. I know there are some security measures or the safety measures are implemented, like the SIS system, we call it as a safety information system, which is basically meant to deal with these kind of situations. If anything causes due to human error or due to any technical error, the safety systems will come into the picture and it will take the control to avoid the damage to the operations or damage to the environment.
Rupesh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, sure.
if this system is not connected to the internet, right,
Mm-hmm.
how is
Mm-hmm.
it vulnerable for cybersecurity?
Yes, yes.
And I mean, also, if how do you protect something through these internet modern age softwares when it's not even able to connect to the infrastructure? How do you, what are the challenges with these critical infrastructure situations?
Right. So that's a major challenge with the OT in a so far in so many years. I know there are, I know I mentioned about it's not connected, but if you see the Purdue model, I should have mentioned that, but there are the different layers in which this whole operation, the production of the OT technology works, starting with the level 0, level 1, 2, 3, 4. If you see the level 4, which is actually a business, when the actual production data goes to the business to process something, to generate report, to send the data to the regulatory authorities. In terms of the oil manufacturing, I can explain about how many oils of barrel which is being produced in a day for the specific unit that has to be shared with the government agencies. So there is a slight connectivity, but which is at the top layer, which is highly controlled. But if you see about the lower level, lower layers, which is a level 3.5, 3, 2, and 1, which are running on the different hardware devices, PLCs, servers, databases, firewalls, switches. So those are not connected directly. So it's always challenging. So there are different tools now being developed, different utilities being used, which are specifically meant for IT. Though there is no direct connectivity, but there is some data needs to be shared. If you see about I'll give you an example about the Clarity, which is another tool, which is, I'm not endorsing anything, but Clarity is one of the tool which is in use in the industry, but there are many other tools available. What it does is, if you want to see the vulnerability for the specific of your the plant on which you're working, or on the specific unit you're working on, right? So it's not always 100% connected. So Clarity has a database of the tools which is always updating. But there are sometimes what we do is, or basically in industry does, is rather connected directly to the internet. There is a scheduled job, or somebody will actually go and take the backup of the vulnerability database and implement it. Or there is another way in which, if I explain you about the different applications, since there are hundreds of applications being in use. So what it does is, like the any inventory tool. So inventory is most critical here. So inventory is kind of tool. Like if I give an example of the Rockwell application, which the CISA or any industry authority have generated, that this is the vulnerabilities for this application. So using my inventory tool like the SCCM or any other tool, I'll grab the inventory and I'll check. Basically, we have this similar tool, but it's not 100% connected to the internet. No organization or even the government actually, it's not suggesting to have the OT industry or the SCADA to connect to the internet. Considering the challenges and considering the vast impact of this, if anything happens due to the misconfigurations of misalignment of specific application patch or anything, right? So there is a specifically risk assessment needs to be done, how that patch is doing. It needs to go through the proper testing, and then we actually deploy and do the remediation. But as you said correctly, there is no direct one, but there are indirect methods we use, and that's why it's pretty challenging to work in this industry. I hope I'm able to answer you.
No, that was absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. So the next one is operations in the IT, operation, device management, network maintenance, testing, technical supports, and others basically comes into the picture. But if you say in OT, it's highly specialized industries such as energy, manufacturing, oil and gas, robotics, and more, the space industries and all. This is basically comes in terms of the industries we talk about in the OT. So these are the few basic differences I wanted to highlight here. But obviously, there are many, and there is an interrelation between them. As I mentioned about the Purdue model, it is actually there is a convergence between the how IT and OT are being used. But to run the infrastructure or to run the this whole operation smoothly. So let's go to the next one. So here I'm just wanted to explain why basically OT security is important. So as mentioned earlier, it is basically used in critical infrastructure for any country. In the recent and in the current geopolitical situations with the nation state, actually, they are mostly concerned about how the specific country can be impacted. So directly attacking the country, but instead of working on this behind the scene kind of attacks on OT, like any gas pipeline or any water treatment utilities or any smart grids or electrical systems which are highly utilizing this, it can create a major impact, or it's a devastating impact actually. Financial losses, obviously, because these industries are running for years and it has a lots of investment, billions of dollars of investment, and really damages the specific country or the specific city if there is any impact or any incident on this OT industry. Environmental damage, obviously, I just mentioned about the oil and gas. If there is an oil spill, right, it will definitely damage the specific environment, specific area. If it's a gas plant, obviously it will explode with the specific city or the town with that oil manufacturing or the gas manufacturing. It is also used in nuclear plant. That was in one of the incidents from the Ukraine. There were some incidents happened in the Ukraine nuclear plant to damage the specific unit, and there were many other incidents happened in the past regarding oil manufacturing or nuclear plant. Physical harm, it is actually doing something on the land in terms of physically, so it can damage anything. As what I mentioned about physical harm is one of the crucial one, and reputational damage, obviously if any incident happened, it is directly related to the reputation of the organization, and it could damage the overall business. Data theft, yeah, this is also one of the critical one. The data is crucial one because the data is always being used for multiple purposes. Government bodies or authorities to report something, to take proper actions, to generate the operation. If there is incorrect data, then operation there will be an impact on how the specific company or the organization is actually manufacturing something. Then there are, I just mentioned here about the couple of incidents which happened in recent past, but there are many. The Colonial Gas Pipeline, which was the recent one in 3 years ago, which has happened in the Texas, which is basically a ransomware attack on the gas pipeline. And it was in news for a pretty long time. And just because of one ransomware attack, could be one phishing email, or that actually caused the operation to stop completely. Then another one is Oldsmar water treatment plant attack. Hackers remotely access the water treatment plant to manipulate it and to create a havoc. So these are the few basic couple of ones I have mentioned here, but there are pretty many incidents happen in the past which we can find out definitely. So any questions
Rupesh,
here? Yeah.
yeah, I have one question. What exactly happened here? Did the hackers, when they took, they stopped the operation, did they do mining, or did they just encrypted everything and asked to pay back? And what was the result of these two incidents?
So behind the scene, exactly, obviously it's a government body which was dealing with it. So it was not, but it is basically one of the phishing attack happened, and it is actually decrypted those backup file, decrypted the data. That's what happens with ransomware attack. It is basically decrypt anything and it requests for the ransom. And if you want to continue with the production, or if you want to continue with your application, so that's what happened. But they said it was the data was restored and they caught the specific authorities. But frankly speaking, my personal opinion, there are so many ransomware attacks are happening on day-to-day basis, but nobody wants to share their feedback or their views because obviously it is damaging their image into the industry. And since you this is specifically related to the government bodies, I doubt there were detailed explanation provided. They did provide that, but I don't know exactly how and why, and is it really true, the statement which is provided. That's my personal
Because
opinion, obviously.
because I remember Colonial actually ended up paying them, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
And
there are so many happening actually on day-to-day basis. But though the law says, because I'm in the California, the law says the government bodies, authorities should share the data in
they
72
have to
hours if
report
there's
it,
anything
yes.
happens.
Yeah.
But if you
That's the
see,
law in Europe too. They have penalties around it, and
yeah,
within 2 weeks, you kind of have to say that how much data has been exported, and
right,
when did that happen, and how was it remediated.
right, right, right.
This was a pretty
It,
big case, I remember.
Yes, yes. And that's what, if you see the recent one, the last week about the AT&T, though government body says it is you have to share the data in 72 hours, but the AT&T hack was happened almost more than a year ago and they never shared that. So that's what it is, something whistleblower or something which share the data, but many incidents happen and they are not sharing it. This is a fact, considering the reputational damage basically and impacting the business.
Thank you, Rupesh. Please
Yeah.
proceed.
So I hear about the some OT security landscape basically. So let's explain about what are the different threats, and I've mentioned about the IT and OT convergence. So what is going on here in the industry now? Because it's all going from completely isolated systems previously Now they're trying to use IT more so that they can leverage the benefits of IT in terms of connecting the system, multiple plants, or connecting the to the internet so that they can take and proper actions of in terms of suppose trying to use the cloud technologies. They would like to definitely save their infrastructure costs, taking appropriate decisions, assigning the resources, what are the benefits of cloud technologies. The industry is trying to leverage those, and that's what the actual threats comes into the picture, because industry is actually not meant to be connected, but since they're trying to use it, it needs to be controlled properly. There should be some proper controlling mechanism which should stop the attacks and avoid those direct connectivity to the PLCs or different units of hardware. Then rise of IoT, Internet of Things, as what I mentioned about, these are also devices which are connected, which are obviously IoT is something which is always online, and there are always threats, because we have seen the cases in which incidents in which the credentials which are used in IoT devices are actually the same which are used in terms of the Wi-Fi or in terms of internet. Those are similarly used in some other places. So the hackers are actually gaining the access using the IoT applications or IoT app, and then it is passing those credentials and using that uh, connectivity to reach out to the different units of OT. Sophisticated attack, the nation states. This is, as I mentioned earlier, it is pretty critical. I mean, nation states are always behind how to take a control, how to damage a specific unit, specific facility. Supply chain attacks. Supply chain is also one of the major one I have not explained earlier, but supply chain in which how the production is being carried out from the different supply chain cycles. And if there is any slight misconfiguration or slight what you call it as entry point to the hacker, it might impact the whole manufacturing operation. Suppose if we are manufacturing something and there is a specific unit which is being used by the third party vendor and which is requires an access, and that access point is actually taken over by some malicious activity or the hacker, or they could inject the specific malware. If you know about the SolarWinds incident happened a couple of years ago, so it is basically one of the patch which is used, and that was misconfigured, and that was embedded into the SolarWinds, and it is being installed on all these sites or the systems in which SolarWinds is installed. And I know the SolarWinds is pretty good, and it's one of the major tool used in industries for OT, because it is monitoring all those PLCs and ITUs and other devices using the SolarWind. And so that's the reason it was pretty challenging to. It's one of the major threats in terms of handling the threats in the OT infrastructure.
Just I wanted
Yeah,
to add something here.
yeah,
Uh, a recent supply chain attack was on Linux, on the a very popular XD unzip and zip utility. And we have a session coming up on that eventually, but
mhm,
that's also getting a lot of media right now. And
right,
that was also a very interesting case. Just because these things are community based
right,
doesn't mean it's always secure.
yes,
There's something called group immunity until there isn't. Yeah.
yeah, right, right, right. Good, thank you. So the next one is the consequences of the breaches. I know it is basically used in critical infrastructure, so it disrupts the whole operations. And imagine if there is a slight misconfiguration or the attack on the smart grid or the electrical plant. Obviously, it will impact the whole city or the state if that gets impacted. So it's pretty critical. It has a major impact. Financial losses, obviously, if it is doing in terms of anything in the manufacturing or in the production, it is giving financial losses. Safety risk and reputational damage, I have also mentioned about that earlier. Safety, it is the major thing, or the first thing actually I would like to comment here about the OT and the IT here is the safety. And because if you see in IT, it's not directly related to the human. I know there are always some discussions on that, but if you see in the OT, it is directly impacting the human life. It could be simple example about the controlling the specific manufacturing oil plant, and it's actually changing the temperature value, changing the pressure. It could explode anything, and it's kind of a nuclear attack on the specific unit. It will destroy the whole city or the whole town in which that the specific plant is. If the gas leaks, if there is any, there are deadly gases these manufacturing plants are actually producing. And if that leaks, right, it's always already it can impact the specific region. So that's why safety uh, risk to the human life is a major one in terms of the OT landscape. Trends. So there are the different trends in which this OT security is going through. They focus on proactive security. What this industry is now doing here is, I mean, in the so far is, it's a layered strategy which includes segmentation monitoring. I know there are many units which are being used at different levels. There are all the systems which are at different security layers. If you see about production, which is carried out at the devices which is at level 0, but there are other PLCs level 1. There are the servers at the specific level, and there are our infrastructure related applications or servers. If you see about the email clients or SMTP or the domain controllers or the antivirus servers, WSS servers, which are at one of the level, and there are some business levels. So industry is now many using having the many layered approach, directly having the single into the single layer. It's a multiple layer, multiple physical security, many security layers they use, and which is actually pretty good idea in terms of how this uh, devices or industry can be safe. So regulations and standards. I know Europe also has many regulations, like US also has. NCSI is a critical infrastructure security agency, which is implementing a lot of security measures. They're generating a lot of data, a lot of sharing good practices to the all the organizations, and there are laws actually which they have to follow. All the companies had to follow those regulations, and which is giving, which is pretty good in terms of what are these things which any company or any plan needs to implement. If there is a new plan you want to start, so obviously it will be good idea to use those and to keep safe your infrastructure.
Rupesh, do
Importance
you
of
have a
visibility.
name of any such standard? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
Okay,
was just
so
curious. Do you have any standard name?
okay, so I have few standards mentioned in the next slide. So I know there was a
Uh,
question. So obviously I have mentioned about that
Wonderful.
there are few niche standards. There are ISA 62443 standards, which are pretty used in the OT industry. So I have that coming up in the few next slides. So I'll definitely explain there. So importance of visibility, as Mohit you pointed out earlier. So how the vulnerability can be repeated if there is no visibility. So there is this is one of the major trends in the industry now, which is using the inventory tools to gather all the inventory and to make some decisions on the vulnerability remediations or taking some actions on asset lifecycle management of the specific unit you're working on. So that's why in the what we call it as inventory is pretty critical. It gives some visibility on which what are the hardware or the software you have in the your environment which needs an action for remediation. And the last one, which is the major one, is the workforce security. And always human is the biggest security link in terms of the security. So that's why have the users trained on the day-to-day basis on as and when there is a specific scheduled training, get them up to date with the security incidents. So which is critical because there are the many things which is actually got initiated with the credentials of the users. So obviously it is one of the critical one, and the industry is now going with the different security training, some phishing training, phishing mock phishing attacks they're generating, and they're explaining, they are forcing users or the employees to get those trained or certified, and which is pretty common now, and which is pretty required in terms of the managing the security. But if you see, the overall security landscape demands the comprehensive and constantly evolving approach. By understanding the threats, potential consequences, emerging trends, organization can build a robust defense to safeguard the critical infrastructure. So as the specific description says, yeah, it is not just a one person activity. It is a combination of different entities to work. There are the operation team which is working, sharing their sharing their knowledge. There are the infrastructure side, like the server, firewall, databases, network team, what do you call it as facility team. And there are other things which is shared by compliance auditing team. So it's all the combination, and the security team is actually working on creating the security policies, standards and procedures to specify or to implement and have the systems in control, and they can take the proper action to remediate something which is coming in terms of the managing the security. Any question here? Okay, so let's explain about some OT security strategy. You might have heard these terms earlier as well for dealing with the different security for different entities. But the first thing we begin with the OT security strategy is to access the environment. We should have the proper inventory. We should have some network mapping, because these systems are internally connected to the many systems. There are many nodes which are connected. There are databases which are using. There are different applications which is input output servers which is actually doing some analysis. There are the vulnerability assessment needs to be done. So this is one of the major first step we can say about to have the inventory, network mapping, vulnerability assessment. Then we can take the proper action in the next stage. But first we need to have this kind of data in order to have the security strategy in place. Then prioritize risk basically, because there are hundreds of risks you could have, but obviously you have to rate those on the basis on the which your business in, your industry in. Because if the oil manufacturing plant could have the different risk compared to the manufacturing plant of a pharma company. So we have to find out what are the critical systems, evaluate the threats, basically use or threat actors, and then prepare a risk register, which will highlight all the risks. And the security team or the different team can sit together and design the plan how the risk can be prioritized, and depending on that, the risk mitigation will happen in the future stage. Implement security measures. So once the risks have been prioritized, the next step is to implement the security measures using the network segmentations, access control, patch management, system hardening, monitoring, detection. You can find a similar one into the usual IT cybersecurity strategy as well, but which applies here as well, because here if systems are not connected outside, but there are the systems. We do have servers, we do have databases, we do have applications which are running on those servers and workstations and databases. So there is a specific risk assessment or the measures need to be implemented in order to safeguard those.
Rupesh, I just
Yeah.
wanted to highlight we have 15 minutes left.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so 5 minutes we will need to talk a little bit.
Okay.
So
Sure.
maybe
Yeah. No, I guess I have only 3 slides. I guess
then
let's.
we can have a few question answers
Sure.
around this.
Okay, definitely. And the another one is the next one is the develop incident response plan. When we have everything, you can design or develop the how the incidents can be remediated. There is a response plan needs to be carried out, and people processes training needs to be there. Supply risk chain management, regular reviews and audits, tabletop exercise also comes into the picture. We can sit together and decide what needs to be done. And obviously compliance and security culture is the always there. You should have the proper compliance mechanism on monthly basis if you're doing activity, or quarterly basis, which keeps your environment in healthy stage. So in nutshell, I can say about the building an OT security strategy is an ongoing process. By continuously monitoring your environment, adopting new threats, and refining your approach, you can significantly improve your organization's resiliency against the cyber attacks. I will just explain about the OT security standards, which you were asking about earlier. So NIST SP 882 and revision 3 is basically guide for to operational technology security, which is developed by NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US. And this is a comprehensive guide, provides a roadmap of how you can secure the OT systems and take an appropriate action. And the next one is IEC 62443. This is the international standard series from International Electrotechnical Commission, which is focusing on security for industrial automation and control systems. And it covers basically multiple approach like requirements, network security, vulnerability assessments, and all. So these are the two standards, but there are many. But obviously, it matters on the way in which we work on industry. So there are industry-specific standards, industry-specific guidelines which will have to follow. Though there are the major ones available, but obviously those standards needs to be following how you do business, because you know better about how the operation is being carried out. So it's all based on the specific industry and the sector you're working on. And also there are regulatory requirements which have to follow. So I guess this is the second last one. So certifications, I know we're all want to learn and grow ourselves. So there are major certifications I just wanted to explain here in terms of the OT. The first one is isa.org. I'm a proud member of that, and I have gathered certification on the ISA as well. And the another one is SANS Institute, which is a pretty cool one, but I know these are pretty costly. But these are the two certifications if anybody want to get trained on the OT security or cybersecurity certifications. So these are the two good options if anybody wants to achieve. And obviously this is just a statement. So here I just want to give some demo on the how the industrial control systems incident carried out. If we have just a 1 or 2 minutes, Mohit, if you're okay.
Carry on, Rupesh.
Let me see if audio is automatically, I guess I should have joined with the audio. Okay.
You can click on present on Teams and that should work.
Yeah, it's actually I've been embedded into the okay, let's share the different one. Oops, sorry.
Rupesh, I don't think we can hear it. So maybe you could say something when this is being done.
Yeah. So basically, what is what this specific demo is all about? It is let me mute this. So it's basically how the attack is being carried out on the specific uh, unit using the fuzzing attack they're explaining here about. There's actually stopping the infrastructure, stopping the production in the lab with the help of the fuzzing attack. So that's the whole aim about this video. It's just a minute.
What is a fuzzing attack?
It's basically bombarding the specific application with the different values, and it's actually stopping that application to respond.
Like a DDoS attack.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
If you see here, that's why they're explaining. This is actually one of the product demo. So they have explained how they are avoiding this attack by changing the value in the application, which will not allow more than 15 or 20 concurrent values.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody is interested to know about, because I don't have any specific
That's
physical
okay. If you could
demo to share.
post a
Yeah.
link of this video on YouTube
Yeah.
on the chat, that would really help.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
then
Definitely.
maybe we could visit this later with audio and stuff.
Awesome. So I guess that's it from my side.
Cool.
Any questions?
Thank you so much, Rupesh. Any
Yeah.
questions, anyone? This was pretty new for me. I've heard about operational technologies, I've heard about critical infrastructure, but why and how those things was a little bit new to me. But any questions, anyone? If you still have questions, I could give you Rupesh's LinkedIn and you could reach out to him. Rupesh, I hope that's okay with them,
Yeah.
with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Please reach
Absolutely.
out to him. He's a very experienced guy, and CISSP really proves his credentials there. And he's been working on the technology, so he has the live updates there. Uh, Everything that we talked about here, all those presentations, everything would be available in the links that I've posted. Uh, and I've posted the link for LinkedIn group also. So if it feels like it, please join us. We're trying to build a community, and there is a meetup and a sessionize link too, in case you have something interesting to say in cybersecurity. Make your voice heard. We're all trying to do that. So that's what there is about. We have upcoming sessions, as Rupesh said, a supply chain attack kind of involving solar winds was a big highlight, and
Hmm.
recently that was done again through XZ
Yeah.
exploit, and that's again through community, which is seems like it's being planned and it's a big deal now. So people are organizations and governments are taking action around that. We have something around that. Rupesh also touched base on IoT and why it's important in the age of everything connected to the cloud. So you have to save your critical infrastructure, but at the same time modernize too. We have another session around saving the IoT, and then all favorite Copilot for security, which is a big buzz at the moment in the Microsoft community. We have a session for that too. Please join us for the next sessions, and make sure you connect on LinkedIn. I keep posting update. Me and my colleagues, I couldn't introduce him today. We keep posting updates about the sessions, and it would be lovely to have all of you there again. Yeah. In case you have any more questions, and just have to say, I'm planning on a meetup at a physical location. It would be really nice to meet all of you. Please do stay in touch. Yeah. With that, if nobody has any other questions, uh, it was really lovely meeting you guys, and I thank you very much, Rupesh, for taking your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
All of you
And
have a lovely day ahead of you. Yeah.
yep. Have a good day.
Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.